Hey guys, what's up? My name is Drew Wright, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my Switzerland Beautiful Places tour. We're going to look at some of the most beautiful places in Switzerland. We're going to talk about the train system, how it works, transportation, the culture, a little bit of history, and just some overall tips on how to have the best Switzerland vacation. So stick around. Our first stop's going to be in Stechelberg. This is where I got a Airbnb for about 38 bucks a night. I stayed for 12 nights. This is a little village that was first recorded in 1749, and it's part of the beginning entrance of the Lauterbrunnen Valley. It was used as a mining area for mining iron. In 2003, the area suffered from 2 big avalanches. Now, when I was there, I wasn't involved in any avalanche, but it did snow really big my last night. This place was just amazing. It's just, you're all alone in the mountains. Now, one thing I wanted to note, there are only 2 ways to reach Stechelberg. One is by a narrow road, and one is by the bus. And you better catch that bus. Otherwise, you're going to have to hike, which hiking I did, and I did a lot of hiking. Every night when I got off the bus, I had probably about a 20-minute walk to my room. Now, if you look here, you can see at the top here, this shows the bus that's headed to Lauterbrunnen. It shows the stops that it makes before you reach your destination. So with the Swiss Travel Pass that I purchased, you can go on any train, any bus, any boat, and most of the cable cars. So after we get off bus 141 from Stechelberg, we're going to arrive in the village of Lauterbrunnen. Now, there's a bus that runs about every 30 minutes between Lauterbrunnen and Stechelberg, except for at night. The last bus is at 10 o'clock, so make sure you're at the bus station before that, or you're going to be doing some major walking. Now, Lauterbrunnen is a village that has 72 waterfalls, and as you see when you're pulling up or going into the village of Lauterbrunnen, you'll see a waterfall off to your right. Very famous waterfall. It's one of the biggest ones in Europe. It drops 900 feet from the front face. It's called Stechelberg Falls, if I'm pronouncing that correct. Now, Lauterbrunnen is part of the Jungfrau region. The Jungfrau region is the place where all the skiers go to ski down the Swiss Alps. In the Jungfrau region, there are glaciers, and the water that you are seeing come down off the mountains here in the little valley of Lauterbrunnen actually come from some of those glaciers. So that was very neat to see. You can see here that there's outdoor dining in the evening. I would always stop through Lauterbrunnen, and I would eat my dinner outside the place off to the right, and I would just listen to the waterfalls coming down the mountains. So it was a pretty amazing just place to be every evening, beautiful, lit up. You'll also be surprised to know that you can take your animal in a restaurant, and I mean a dog, because I would see dogs sitting on bar stools at a bar in Lauterbrunnen. And also you can see this guy. He's a coyote. You can take your coyote in. And while you're sitting there with your dog, or possibly your coyote, you can enjoy some of the good food that's in Lauterbrunnen. This is a sandwich at a Greek restaurant. A lot of people in the surrounding countries around Switzerland come there for business and set up businesses. So there were Greek restaurants, there were Italian restaurants. So if you get tired of the Swiss food, which seemed to me like a lot of Swiss cheese, meats, and bread, which is really good, but not always the best healthy option, there are other options. Italian food, Greek food, so just food, 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 and some of the best food I've ever had. What I love about it, when you sit down with either your dog or let's say your coyote, and you look around, it's like you're going back into time. You're sitting in the middle of the mountains in a restaurant, and you look around, you see old men sitting at a table, sharing stories. You've got a plate full of salami and meats and Swiss cheese and a German beer, and life just really couldn't get any better. So after having a good German pint and some good food in the evenings, I would head back to my room. This was my Airbnb, 38 bucks a night. Not a real big room. One outlet, no TV. The bed was supposed to be a queen bed, but it's two twin beds put together. You'll see that a lot in Switzerland. But really nice room. And also, if you look outside, you'll see another dog, and he's just out running around. So dogs are accepted everywhere in Switzerland. A lot of nights when I would pop out of my room to walk downstairs, because bathrooms are always downstairs in Switzerland for some reason, I'd see this little dog out just wandering around. He was probably trying to get warm. Okay, so our next stop's going to be Kandersteg. And I just wanted to go over real quick about trains. In Europe, you're going to travel by trains mostly everywhere. For $490, you can purchase the Swiss Travel Pass. And the Swiss Travel Pass will let you, and this is up to 15 days for $490, it'll let you hop on any train, any boat, and any bus non-stop without having to buy extra tickets. You're going to save money. You don't have to buy gas for a car. It is the way to go. And every time I go to Switzerland, I use the Swiss Travel Pass. So one thing I do want to note, if you do purchase a Swiss Travel Pass, you can get it at the airport when you fly in. And just make sure that when you have that pass, that you keep it on you. You can get a paper copy, and also you can get a copy on your phone. And you will need to show that because they come around every train and check to see if you have that. If you don't, they will fine you, and there are no exceptions. The Swiss do not bend rules. They're sticklers about rules. Okay, so we're here in Kandersteg, and this is a beautiful village in the Bernese Highlands of Switzerland. It's located in the heart of the Alps. Kandersteg is a small farming village, and it has a population of about 1,200 people. In the early days, the settlers and the pioneers of the area relied heavily on farming. They also did herding cattle through the mountains, but that is not so much the case today. Today it's a tourist area. When I say tourist area, I don't mean like it's packed with people. There's just a lot of people come there to go skiing. A lot of people come there to go to ocean and lake, which is why I came. That's how I discovered Kandersteg. It's always one of the places that I have to go when I go to Switzerland after spending some time there. They have little restaurants with wood-burning stoves. You'll see a church like this as you're walking to hit the cable car or gondola that takes you up to ocean, and where you can walk to ocean and lake. So when you get to arrive in Kandersteg, you're going to be about 30 minutes from the downtown village to the cable car gondola ride. You get to the top, there's going to be an area with some bathrooms. So I kind of went in there and warmed up because walking so far, and the first time I went it was a lot of snow. It was cold, so I went in there and warmed up, and then I started my descent down to Oceanen Lake. And once you get down there, I'm going to tell you what, it's amazing. The gondola ride here, it's about, I think it's about $17 on your way up and the same on the way down. So now if you do have the Swiss Travel Pass, you do get a discount on that. So I can't preach that enough. You know, the Swiss Travel Pass is an excellent way to go. So once you get off the cable car at the top of the mountain, you're going to have a good little walk down to the lake. Like I said, about 30 to 35 minutes probably. You're going to walk down this little road, and there's going to be these massive pine trees, and you're just going to be looking up at these things and thinking, wow, these things are so tall. This is crazy, because it looks like I'm just in the middle of nowhere in a massive forest, something you'd see in a movie. Little Red Riding Hood or something along those lines. And it's just breathtaking. It's breathtaking everywhere you look. You get to the bottom finally, and there's one little restaurant down at the bottom right by the lake, and you can go down there and get you some hot chocolate, get you a famous German bratwurst, and just take in the sights. I will tell you, if you're expecting for it to be majorly secluded, sometimes it is, but sometimes, remember, it is a tourist place and people will do all the walking to see it. So if you're doing photography, videography, or drone or anything like that, you may have to move around to get some shots where, you know, people aren't in it. Okay, so while we're on the subject of equipment, whether we're talking about your phone, a camera, a drone, even if you're not somebody there in the Swiss Alps to take like professional photography, people still love to take pictures and videos and share on social media. So one thing I want to stress to you, and I can't stress enough, and in this video, I'm trying to give you some history, some tips, and just a little bit of things to know from someone who's done this. Invest in a battery backup for your phone. You can get them on Amazon for $28 or so. I think I bought mine there. I have an iPhone. But the worst thing that can happen is that you can be right here in Oceany and looking at these pine trees and looking at the mountains, or down by the lake where we were at, or this, and your phone dies while you're trying to take a picture or a video, and you spend all this time and you don't get any footage like this, or you don't get any pictures like this. So do that. I can't stress that enough. There's another reason too for that, is because let's say you buy the Swiss Travel Pass, and I'm promoting that because it's the best way to go. For $490, that's unlimited, that'd be like unlimited gas or fuel. You can go anywhere you want, as much as you want. Let's say you buy that pass. You're going to travel around Switzerland on the SBB railroads system, okay? So the SBB has an app. You download that app from the App Store, say on your iPhone. But on that app, you put in your destination you want to go. It tells you the times that the trains go. Trains will go about every 30 minutes, so if you miss one, you can catch the next one. But if you are on the train, or let's say you get off at the station and your phone dies, you're stuck. You don't know what platform you got to get off. And I'm going to tell you what, Switzerland, like I said, the people are sticklers to the rules. So if you're a second late for the train, you're not getting on that train. You're probably going to be running around trying to find a place to charge your phone. You won't know what platform to get on, what section to get on for your next train. I will say there are German timetables, but unless you know German, they're just complicated. And even if you know German, they're still complicated. The SBB app is the way to go on your phone to get to your destinations. So buy the battery backup. Okay, so the last place I want to look at in Kandersteg is the Marienkirche Church. It's, I believe, the only Catholic church in Kandersteg. Back in the Reformation era, most people converted to Protestant Christianity. But in 1927, Italian settlers came, and this Catholic church is where they worshiped, and it still goes today. Anyway, so here in Kandersteg, this is one of the cities that I just absolutely have to come to. Every time I go to Switzerland, it's usually day 1 or 2 of my itinerary. I can't get enough of it. You know, whether you're sitting by the little chapel Catholic church there by the creek with some Swiss cheese and a good Coke or whatever, the place is just amazing. Okay, so one of the next beautiful places on our tour, we're going to hop off another train. We're going to sit down here in Interlaken and eat this good old German bratwurst, some fries, and a Coke. Now, this bratwurst was amazing. It stands to reason because bratwurst originated in Germany, and Germany's right beside Switzerland, and there's a lot of German culture here. You heard me refer to a German beer. It's funny because my friends see all the Coke in my videos, and they ask, is Coke sponsoring you? You're drinking Coke all the time. I'm like, no, but that'd be awesome. Anyways, let's look at this blue water here. This is the Eiger River that runs down through Interlaken. I just thought it was simply amazing. Let me tell you why the water's so blue here. There's about 40 glaciers, or over 40 glaciers in Switzerland, and the glacier water, some of it goes into the lakes, the streams, rivers, and some of the particles from the glacier, they float slowly down to the bottom, and that gives that blue, pristine, just heavenly look of the water. It's one of the things that attracted me, that I wanted to go to Switzerland to see some of the water, some of the lakes. I mean, it's just heavenly. I literally spent all day in this area right here, just kind of filming this and photographing it. At night, it was so beautiful with the lights. Just a really pretty area. This is a great place to come just to sit and look at the Eiger River and its blue waters, and breathe in some crisp mountain air, and look at the surrounding Swiss Alps after you've been hiking through those Alps, you know, for a while, and just take a break. Let your wife go through some of these shops, because she's going to love the shopping here. There's all kinds of shopping. There's all kinds of restaurants, hotels. It was really cool. One of the oldest hotels in Switzerland is here, the Interlaken Hotel, which I got to see, and it was absolutely stunning. It was made in the 14th century and it's still operating. It used to be a guest house, so that was really neat to see. You can see here by the Eiger River that all these buildings, they're so old. There's so much history here. Settlements in this area date back as early as the late Stone Ages and the Bronze Age. They found stuff from the Neolithic times here. They found a lot of coins from the Roman days. It wasn't until about 1275 that history documents start to kind of mention this area. Interlaken, before it was named Interlaken, it was called Armula, if I'm pronouncing that correct, and it was that name up until 1891. The name changed. Interlaken was named Armula after the riverside mill in the area, and still to this day you can still see the mill canals, which kind of remind people to this day of the rich history. The town continued to grow in the 1130s when an abbey was built for the Augustinian canons. Now, if you don't know what that is, an abbey is like a parish, it's like a monastery, it's a place for monks, nuns, or priests, and a canon is a priest. So that had a significant role in the development and establishment of this town. Now, real quick, I want you to look at these people. This was a festival that was going on, and we had all these people dressed in costumes, and they were growling at me and everything else. So it was really cool to see. I noticed there's a lot of festivals, and the Swiss people seem to be pretty festive. They have a lot of things like that. Back to a little bit of the history, I mentioned the abbey that was there in Interlaken, or the monastery. I wanted to note that it was protected by Lucerne III. He was a Holy Roman Emperor, and the place became very popular, and the abbey got pretty big, and by the 14th century it ruled over about 20 surrounding churches, and it had roughly about 400 people. There were priests, nuns, and monks. They had weekly markets where they traded butter and cheese and livestock. So you know, that's a little bit of the history. I wanted to note here, if you look at these dogs, something that came to mind is dogs in Switzerland. Okay, you can see there's two of them. An interesting fact is that if you own a dog or a cat or an animal in Switzerland, you have to have two of them so that they're not lonely. They have to have a companion, and you also have to carry insurance for your animal. That's an interesting fact I thought I would throw in there. Okay, you gotta look at this. This is a waterfall here of Swiss chocolate. There's so many stores like this as you're walking through the city, and you just gotta stop at all of them. I walked in and filled my pockets full here. I mean, I paid for it, but I took some home to Mom, the kids, and Pablo, my Saint Bernard, well, he got the cheese. But Switzerland knows how to do cheese, and they know how to do chocolate. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, so you see this bag with a little note there and the nice little plate of food? Well, guess where that come from? That come from my Airbnb. I stayed with a couple from Turkey, and in the morning when I left, she sent me on my way with a big old breakfast, and a packed lunch and a note that told me how they enjoyed me staying up all night and chatting with them. You know, you're not going to get experiences like this if you stay in a hotel. You know, I met a lot of people this way, but Airbnbs, if you're traveling, it's the cheap way to go. You will save so much money and have money for other things. You're just going to lay your head down and sleep at night. So, you know, I can't express that enough. Save yourself some money and book with Airbnbs. All right. Anyways, let's look at this fountain right here. We're in the city of Bern, and this is the capital of Switzerland, and it is a medieval town. And I want to tell you about these fountains that you are seeing right now. You will see these in Zurich, Bern. They may even have some in Lucerne, I'm not sure, but you can basically walk up to these fountains anytime you like, and you can drink from them. You can fill up your cup. I mean, the water quality standards in Switzerland are very, very high. They're very much sticklers about a lot of things, and they're sticklers about their water quality. So, unless it's got a big sign with an X, you can drink from it. Just go up here anytime you want. You're not going to be buying water bottles, anything like that. But it just kind of adds to the coolness of this town, because this is a medieval town, and this is a place I definitely wanted to see. I didn't see it last time, and I got to see it this time. It has an old medieval clock that you can see right here, and so much rich history. The architecture here is absolutely stunning. So I spent a good day in Bern just walking around, eating at different restaurants, which brings me to another point. When you're at a restaurant in Switzerland and a lot of places in Europe, don't worry about tipping. You don't have to tip people. Like, that's a cool thing. Now, I will say it's a little more expensive, but if you tip somebody, you might actually make them feel a little awkward, because that's just not something you do. So if you go to the restaurant, you pay for your food, you don't leave a tip. Especially in Switzerland, people's incomes here are pretty good. It's like one of the richest countries in the world. So even waiters and things like that, they make more money than a waiter in the US, and so that's just not a worry. So that's another fun fact about Switzerland, another little secret to know. So the tower that you're looking at here is the Stechelberg tower clock. It's a landmark in the medieval town of Bern. It was built in the 13th century, and it's been a guard tower, it's been a prison, it's been a clock tower. It was built anywhere from 1218 to 1220. There was a great fire in 1405, and the tower caught on fire, and it was pretty well messed up. It suffered a lot of structural issues, and there were a lot of repairs that needed to be done, and it wasn't completed until the last restoration, which was in 1983. This fountain right here is the Gerechtigkeitsbahn fountain, if I'm saying that correctly, and it means the fountain of justice. It's another famous landmark in Bern. There's landmarks everywhere around, so it would be easy, and it is easy, to find your way around Bern. You can ask people questions. I know when I was in Venice, everything looked the same. I mean, it was so beautiful, but everything looked the same. You can see here the stone streets. There's a lot of cobblestone streets that you can walk down. You see again here the Blue River. Wow, the water here is just, it's just so beautiful in Switzerland. Blue water everywhere. Look at the architecture here, some of the buildings. I took a lot of photography shots of this. Got some really good shots. You need a whole day here for Bern, because there's so much to see. If you look coming up here, there's a pretty little bridge that makes a nice place for photography shots right there. That I got a really great shot of that. Now, I want to comment on one last thing about Bern before we go. Don't be alarmed if you see some weird statues, because I seen a statue of a monster eating kids out of like a bag. I mean, it was really weird, but you know, it's a landmark, and Bern's just full of some weird, crazy, fun history, medieval history. Now look at this. I mean, bakeries are everywhere in the cities and in the mountain towns. I mean, Switzerland, lots of meats, lots of cheese, lots of bread. I ate a lot while I was there. So, moving on. We're moving to our next destination, which is Grindelwald, and it's a beautiful little mountain town. My favorites. So you're in the middle of town, but you're in the middle of the mountains. And this place has some stunning views. It's one of the most beautiful places, I think, in the world. And we're going to take a look around. Okay, so this is the part of the tour that starts to get a little more difficult. Grindelwald is at an elevation of 3,392 feet above sea level. As we're traveling through the Jungfrau region, the altitudes get pretty crazy, some of them. And the first time I went to Switzerland, I went to the Jungfrau Joch, and it's called the top of Europe, and from there you can see like 3 countries, I think, maybe Italy, France, Germany, and I got sick up there from the altitude. I'm an Ohio boy, so I live in valleys and there's hills, but nothing like that. And I didn't realize how sick you could get. So when I was there, I actually had to go talk to someone, and they had to lay me down and give me Swiss chocolate balls and water, which I know you're thinking, right, well, Swiss chocolate balls, that's not bad. You know, they were stuffing my pockets full of them. So I was like, that's cool, you know. But I'm laying there, and man, I thought I was going to pass out. It was so intense, but something about the chocolate and the water, it's some kind of, you know, little thing that the Swiss people know, but it did bring me out of it. So you might want to, here's another little secret, if you're going up in the Alps, pack you some chocolate and take some water bottles. That's another good tip, another little secret to know about Switzerland. Now for you hikers, Grindelwald's an excellent place. You can take the Eiger Express up and get close to the Eiger Mountain, hike some of the trails up there. The summertime, Grindelwald's just beautiful. If you have that image in your head about the cows and the green pastures, or maybe you're picturing that guy with the long pipe yodeling, this is the place to be. In the September, though, I will tell you that they start to bring the cattle down off the mountain, so you may not see any if you don't go before then. But, you know, you've got the cowbells here. They're excellent souvenirs. I always grab some of these and take them home to Mom and the kids. And, hey, I'll even strap one on my little Swiss dog, my dog Pablo. He's a St. Bernard. I don't think he cares for it, but I think it's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's keep walking. I just want you to take a look at this. Yeah, it sounds like somebody's getting excited about the sights in Switzerland, which is pretty common because you're going to be doing a lot of that when you see all the views here in Grindelwald or anywhere else. And we got some more Swiss chocolate. Some of that stuff is so good. This bread right here, the bakeries, that will melt. I mean, it will melt in your mouth. But there's a bread I want to tell you about, and that bread's called Zoff. Zoff is a great bread, just kind of a snack to have on the run. You know, if you're trying to save money, you can just eat it as you walk around. So Zoff literally translates in English as braided. So it's pretty distinct looking. You'll see it in supermarkets when you go in, and that's a good idea to shop there sometimes because Switzerland can get pretty expensive if you eat out all the time. But it's braided looking, and it's a staple of Switzerland. Very popular bread in Switzerland. Everybody eats it. Now, this was interesting to me to see. This is a Bernese mountain dog, which all you dog lovers, I'm sure you recognize this dog. But fun fact for you, another secret of Switzerland. These dogs originated here because we're in the Bernese Oberland region, which it was kind of cool for me to see this too because I own 2 St. Bernards back home, Ruby and Pablo, and they also originated from Switzerland. My dogs originated from the St. Bernard Pass in Switzerland. Okay, so moving on to a little bit of history here. It's legend that The name Grindelwald got its name from two monks from the Interlaken monastery, and we talked about Interlaken and the monastery or abbey there. They had a lot of influence in the area. They controlled a lot of things. A lot of people were trying to break away from that. The early signs of a settlement here go back to the Roman ages. They found coins here as well as like they did in Interlaken. They also found Neolithic tools that were spread around. They found a castle that was built on Buckley hill, which was above the village here, and that goes back to the Middle Ages. In 1146, King Conrad III gave estates to Grindelwald, of Grindelwald to the Interlaken monastery. In the 12th century, the people of Grindelwald went to war against the Duke of Berthold, and he was of the Zarenhagen dynasty. The Duke did defeat the people here of Grindelwald in 1191, and his victory allowed him to expand into other regions, Thun, and also Bern, which is the capital of Switzerland. He was the founder. In the 13th century, the Interlaken monastery began to purchase land here and force the people out. They did raids. It wasn't until the Protestant Reformation that people started to finally break away from the monastery in Interlaken, and the first church was built here in Grindelwald. Okay, so let's quit talking about the history for a minute. You got to stop at this place in Grindelwald. It's called Takeaway 191. It's in English, actually, but look at this slice of pizza. This thing has potatoes on it. If you see this cream, I asked the Italian guys that ran this restaurant, and they're authentic Italians. I said, what is that? They told me it's Gorgonzola cheese. Now, I don't know if we have that in the U.S., but it's very popular in the northern parts of Italy. But it's so delicious. I mean, I've literally never had anything taste that good. It was my favorite food item on the whole trip. I stopped and got 2 of them when I arrived there, and I stopped again on my way back through, and I got 2 more slices. And of course, I had my Coke, which brings me to another funny point. Did you know you can't buy Mountain Dew in Switzerland or most of Europe? You know why? Because they've outlawed one of the ingredients in Mountain Dew, which kind of stunk for me, but luckily I love Coke too. But there's just another fun fact for you. Okay, so as we stroll on through Grindelwald, I wanted to point out this place. This is a really good restaurant. This is Uncle Tom's Wine Bar. And I just wanted to show you this. I photographed it. I'm a photographer. I thought it was so beautiful. It looks like a picture that you would have under the definition of the Swiss Alps in the Webster's Dictionary. Now you'll see here, this is a chapel. This is the chapel. This is the Swiss Reformation Church. And we talked about that. Interlaken had the monastery or the abbey, and they had a lot of control and a lot of power and influence, and the people broke away in the Protestant movement and built some churches. That church also has a graveyard where all the people that have climbed some of the mountains in Grindelwald have died are buried. Anyways, moving on, we're here in Lucerne now, and this is the famous Chapel Bridge. The German name is Kappe Barke, which literally translates as Chapel Bridge. Now, this is the oldest wooden covered bridge in Europe. There's a legend that says an angel came down and shined light in this area out of his hands. He poured it out of his hands, and a bunch of monks were there, and he was showing them where to build the chapel and the city around it. Now, Liechtenstadt is the German name for Lucerne, which means the city of light. We were talking about the angel that shined light down, so that's a little bit of history about the name and a little bit of the history about the Chapel Bridge. As we keep walking, we'll see here there's another fountain there in the distance. These have cobblestone streets. This city will remind you of Bern, so if you like the capital of Switzerland, which is Bern, you'll really love Lucerne because it has a lot of the same stuff. You'll see paintings on buildings like this. I thought that was pretty neat to see. Okay, so as we keep strolling through Lucerne on our Switzerland Beautiful Places tour, I want to give you a tip that's really important. Switzerland is one of the most wealthiest
if not wealthiest countries in the world. And it is expensive. The restaurants are great, but they're expensive. So you need to save your money. Now, do not go to the bank before you come to Switzerland and buy a bunch of Swiss francs. Do not go to the airport in Zurich where you'll fly into and get a bunch of Swiss francs. Use your debit card, use your credit card. First time I went, I took about $2,000 and I lost so much of it in exchange rates. That is a bad thing to do. Do not do that. If you need to withdraw money, do it from an ATM. It will spit your money out in Swiss francs, but do not do that. Because if you want to be able to see places like Switzerland and cities like Lucerne with its blue-green water you can see here, and the architecture, I mean, look at these buildings, they're absolutely amazing. You need to be able to learn how to do it and do it cost efficient, which I have learned to do. And so I get a lot of questions back home, how do you afford to do that? And I'm like, it's really not that expensive if you know what you're doing. I have friends back home that'll spend more money going to Myrtle Beach than I do going to Switzerland. You just need to know some of the tips. You know, you can save yourself on stay and some other things. But we're going to be leaving Lucerne, but what a beautiful city, my favorite city in Switzerland. Okay, so on this Switzerland Beautiful Places tour, I've been trying to give you some tips to have a good Swiss vacation, and I wanted to show you this train right here. Funny story, I got off this train and I drunk so much Coke that day, I was like, you know what, I don't need the rest of this, and I dumped my Coke right there by the train. And some Swiss people stopped and they was like sticking their hands on their faces and, you know, doing the oh my gosh, you know, I'm sure in German, you know, I kind of started to freak out when I seen that. I was like, oh my gosh, did I like break some kind of law? Or, you know, because laws are different in different countries. So that's one thing I want to tell you, like, you're not back home in the U.S., so, you know, you can't dump your drink out, your Coke, your pop, your soda, your coffee, whatever you want to drink. It's just not something that you do in Switzerland. I was able to talk to a local, and she's like, yeah, calm down, you're not going to jail. It's just, you know, it's just not proper here in Switzerland. Switzerland people take good care of their stuff, so, you know, they're sticklers about rules, so you want to try to follow the rules while you're in Switzerland, but don't dump your drinks out. Just don't do that while you're in Switzerland. Okay, so now we are in Zermatt, and you can see here there's lots of cool shops for shopping. There's lots of restaurants. You know, there's people out walking the streets with their dogs and just enjoying the mountain life. There's festive lights everywhere. Down below here you can see the Matterhorn, but in order to get there we are going to have to take the Gonnergrot train up to the mountain, and that is $88, but if you have the Swiss travel pass, that's half of that, so it's only $44. And here is my actual ticket, and you can see it's $44, so that Swiss travel pass saves you a ton of money in the long run. So before I went to the Matterhorn, my highlight of this trip, you can see I stopped off at McDonald's. Look at the McDonald's, is how their menu is so different. Chicken wings, I mean, look at some of these sandwiches. Potato wedges. Okay, so we've made our ascent to the world's famous Matterhorn. This is the highlight of our Switzerland Beautiful Places tour. We get there by taking the Gonnergrot Railway, and it is the highest open-air cog railway in Europe. It's a 33-minute trip from Zermatt up to the top. It'll take you a whopping 10,170 feet. The Matterhorn is 14,691 feet. It sits on the Italian border. Its name means peak in the meadows. In 1865, 7 brave souls attempted to climb the Matterhorn for the first time. They used woven rope, and only 3 survived.
because one of the climbers slipped and he pulled the other 3 down with him, and the rope snapped. It's estimated that 500 people have died attempting this dangerous feat. At the base of the Matterhorn is the world's largest snow igloo. Its diameter is 42 feet and 34 feet high. As you see, we climb to the Matterhorn. The air's thin and the altitude is high. It was one of the hardest times I've ever had breathing. I just literally felt like I was suffocating. I had to stop on my way up and let my body acclimate to the altitude. I started to kind of just feel pressure on my back, my chest. Eventually stopped here to get some photographs, to get some drone footage, but I still had an awful time breathing. Now, I will tell you, a lot of these places, there are medic stations if you get sick. Altitude sickness can make you really sick. I became really sick. You don't want to keep going if you become sick. Here at the Matterhorn, you're literally on top of the world. If you can handle the fierce wind, the cold, the altitude, the lack of oxygen, going up here to the Gonnergrot Hotel and seeing this is something that you'll never ever forget. It was the most magical place I've ever been on Earth. As I looked around and as the sun started to go down, I just was in awe, and I thought of the amazing handiwork of God's beauty. Okay, so we've only got a few more stops on our Switzerland Beautiful Places tour, and without further ado, this is the village of Wengen. Now, this is the place and the site that I seen in a magazine that made me come to Switzerland. You've got this chapel church, and from here, when you're standing by the chapel church, you can look down in the valley and see Lauterbrunnen, which is my... Wengen and Lauterbrunnen are my 2 favorite places of Switzerland. Now, Wengen is spelled with a W, but it's actually pronounced Wengen. The Swiss people pronounce it that way. It is located in the Bernese Oberland, and it's a canton of Bern. A canton, so basically, is like a state. So you got the country, and then you have your states. It sets at 4,180 feet. Its population is 1,300 residents all year round. That doesn't mention skiers and tourists, and just look at the site here. At Christmas time, you can look down and see all the houses down there, and it look like a bunch of little Christmas trees down there. Christmas time, this place is amazing. This is located in the Jungfrau region, which is a region of mountains, and it's the place where all the skiers go. Wengen is a farming community, and in the 19th century, tourists started pouring in, so they started building guest houses and hotels to accommodate the newcomers. Wengen holds the classic Matterhorn ski races of the FIS Alpine Ski World Cup. That's a tongue twister. From August, a little bit of history. From August of 1944 to the end of the World War II, Wengen served as an open-air intermittent camp for prisoners. Most of those prisoners were U.S. bomb crews. And since it's so hard to get up to Wengen, and the only way to get there is by cog railway, it was a safe place to put the prisoners because it was hard to escape. So, just another great Swiss village. Now, this is a restaurant that I would stop a lot of mornings to get breakfast, and you can see here that everything here just is so antique looking, old. You can see the typical Swiss breakfast right there. You can see the cheese and the bread and the salami. I mean, I felt like that's a lot of what the Swiss people eat for breakfast. You can go to buffets, and there's tons of different cheeses. Swiss cheese, of course, is the predominant cheese, but just a beautiful sight. I wanted to show you this restaurant. Everything looks like this. It's like the old days, and you look down from up top here in Wengen, you see the Lauterbrunnen Valley. I mean, this place is just heaven on earth. Lots of shops, lots of places to eat, skiers everywhere. There's a little place you can ski right over here if you're an amateur, but just a really cool village. Okay, so it's time to come out of the cold. You've been walking in the Alps, and have some of Switzerland's famous cheese fondue. Now, they'll bring it out in a little pot like this, and it sets on a burner, as you can see there. They'll light that burner underneath, and it will keep the cheese like bubbling. It'll keep it hot. The waiter or waitress will also bring out, they'll bring out bread, and they'll bring out potatoes, and you can see here that I'm basically dipping my bread in, and you just eat it that way. I mean to tell you, this is so creamy. I'm having my Coke as usual, but it literally melts in your mouth. It is so good. And if you come to Switzerland, if you don't eat anything else, I recommend you've got to have this cheese fondue. So good. It's a staple of Switzerland, and when I think of Switzerland, I think of cheese fondue, definitely. So don't forget the cheese fondue when you come to Switzerland. It's amazing. So this is a sad day because this is the last day of my Switzerland Beautiful Places tour. I brought you back to Lauterbrunnen for a couple reasons. One, I wanted you to see it in daylight. I think earlier in the video it was a little darker. You can see how pretty this place is. I can't get enough of it. Wengen, where we were just at, it overlooks this valley, so that's what you're looking at from up there. You're looking down on the waterfalls coming down the mountains. But another reason I brought you here was because we're going to take a train from the train station there in Lauterbrunnen up to Wengen, which we were there a few minutes ago, and we're going to go up to Kleinscheidegg. Now, Kleinscheidegg is an area before you get to the Jungfrau Joch, which is the top of Europe, and that's an excursion. You do have to pay extra, but you get like half off with the Swiss Travel Pass. I believe that's correct. That much you get off. But we're going to go up there. We're going to catch the train in Lauterbrunnen. We're going to go up to Wengen. From Wengen, we're going to go to Kleinscheidegg, and this is an elevation of 6,762 feet. It's situated below and between the Eiger and the Lauterbrunnen peaks in the Bernese Oberland region of Switzerland. Now, it's so beautiful up here. It's packed with snow. The only problem is I don't have a lot of footage here. I've got some pictures. I've got the train ride up. But when I got to the top, if you remember me talking about the Matterhorn, the elevation can make you really sick. And when I went to the Matterhorn and I got sick up there, I stopped at a pharmacist to talk to a pharmacist, because in Switzerland, pharmacists can actually do a lot of things that doctors do. So it's a little bit different. So I talked to a pharmacist, and they said, pharmacist, and they said, do not climb any higher, do not continue to go any higher. Well, I'm stubborn. I wanted to see the Eiger Mountain. The Eiger Mountain's up here, and you've got to check that out. Look it up on the web and see how beautiful it is, but I always have to come see the Eiger Mountain. So anyways, I come up here to the top, I get my stuff out of my bag, I start photographing, videoing, flying my drone, and I get to where I can't breathe again because of the altitude, because I didn't take the time to rest. I pushed myself, you know. On a trip like this and you're seeing all this, you're going to go hard. I do always. So I got a few pictures, but that was basically it. But try to go see the Eiger Mountain and Kleinscheid, nice place. So it's time to end our Switzerland Beautiful Places tour and head home. Before I let you go, I want you to keep in mind to be mindful when you're here in Switzerland of the culture of the Swiss people. They're not big on chit-chat. They're good, hard-working, disciplined people. They follow the rules. They expect you to follow the rules. Don't talk loud on trains, on your phone. I'd recommend you even text. It's very frowned upon. They don't even flush their toilets after 10 p.m. in the cities. So keep in mind the culture. These people will treat you good if you treat them good. Now, I'm going to let you enjoy this snow. And the rest of this video, we're going to take a walk back to the Alpenhof guest house, which was our stay. $38 a night. My name's Drew Wright. I'm the owner of Travel Wright Photography and Tours. And I'm asking you, please subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, give me a like and a comment. Thanks for watching. And I hope that someday you get to have a Switzerland adventure of a lifetime.